Thank
You
you.
should unmute. Thank you very much. Since we've been doing a lot of virtual learning since March, we've found that there are a lot of students that have a difficult time simply because they don't have access to the internet or there's an affordability problem. On a personal basis, I'm actually on the broadband task force looking at options. What I'd like to know is how do we overcome that? And I'm going to start with Lucy Bond.
Well, I definitely think that during COVID, the disparities are quite stark. I think that all over North Carolina and even in this wonderful county that we live in, children are not able to always access. Also, I would like to say on that, I mean, I know this isn't about the internet particularly, but when students are at home, if they don't have a grown-up there to help them, that makes it just harder, much harder for them to access, the kinds of things that they need to do. I have a friend who's a grandmother working with her grandson in second grade, and she's had a difficult time. I think she maybe has mastered it now that they're going back, but she's had a difficult time accessing the lessons. So we are experiencing a huge learning curve. And I hope that, on your committee, Tom, that, we can have better internet for all students, because I think it does present a problem for our students. I know there are hot spots, but can a child get to that hot spot? So yeah, that has been a big problem, I believe.
Thank you. Katie Statler?
I agree, internet's a huge problem. We have a ton of children who don't have access to any internet. Fortunately for Carteret County, we are a one-to-one technology county, so we've been able to overcome hurdles that other counties are facing in simply technology in hand, and we're very fortunate that we don't have that struggle. Increased awareness of the free Wi-Fi that we have available. Many parents don't even know it's an option to go places. Continuing to work and adding businesses that are willing to allow people to come use their Wi-Fi. I've seen a few businesses offer up, their parking lot or an empty office or a room if needed. So continuing to work with the community to support our kids, and then just continuing to provide the hotspots that we've provided. I know they've provided some portable ones for families and students, and working with these providers to try to stress the importance and urgency behind getting internet easily accessible and affordable for our families.
Thank you. Jennifer Johnson.
Yes, I agree with everything Lucy and Katie have said. I mean, I think we have to remember that there's children at home who may not be able to do their homework until their parent comes home and drives them to that park or brings them to McDonald's to access the free Wi-Fi. So having that access to everyone in Carteret County is absolutely a great need. I also think because we've gone virtual, we understand that we're not going to go backwards now. The world will continue to be virtual in some ways. We've realized that we can have Zoom meetings, that children may be able to do a Google Meet. And if we are quarantined, if we have too many clusters and we go back to this all virtual for our students, I'm really concerned about those who are not going to be able to access that internet every day and are going to fall further and further behind. I feel like COVID has really brought to the surface the inequities that we have in our community, and we're kind of pulling further away from the haves and the have-nots, and that's really affecting our children in their education. So that's certainly something I'm running on. Certainly internet access for all of us will even up the playing card for all of us and certainly help our children.
Thank you very much. Dennis Goodwin?
Yeah, I too agree with what everybody said. Some of the issues are economic, whether it be the economy of getting high-speed internet to every portion of the county, the economic situation in a home, some of it's cultural, that even in the home, if they don't have a quiet place where it's respected, where learning can happen, then virtual learning is very difficult. And I strongly agree this is a have and a have-nots. The bright kids from educated homes, they're going to be fine. But those who do not have someone encouraging them, loving their learning, rewarding them for what they're doing, they're going to just say, what's the point? Nobody can get on me now. This is the excuse I've been waiting for. And I'm speaking of older students now. So this has created a whole new set of challenges, and it's going to take a multifaceted solution, not just one issue, in order to meet this tremendous need of inequity. Thank you.
Thank you. In June of this year, the Carteret County Board of Education voted 6-1 to suspend acceptance of the incoming freshman class at MAST and allow additional sophomores and juniors to enroll. Can you tell me where you stand on that particular issue? And we're going to start with Katie Statler.
I understand when they suspended the freshman class enrolling, it was because the budget had not been passed by our state, and respected that decision. However, when you use the words, we are going to pause admission to the freshman class, that said, you would assume that would mean it can be unpaused if funding comes through. And the only reason I've seen for it is because they've said it was a one-year budget, but all of us operate on one-year budgets, and you just hope it will be renewed. We did reach out. I have reached out to a couple senators and Catherine Truitt, who is on the state level, about the funding, and they all agreed that MAST and all the early colleges across the state would be continued to be funded in the future. So I think at that point it would have been safe to allow these freshmen to enroll into the school that they were excited to enroll for, and they've watched these older kids fight, literally sit in board meetings and cry to keep their school open. And if the school is not what it was intended to be, which is what I have kind of heard, that when opened and they talked to the Department of Education in their memorandums to open the school, that it's not quite what they planned it to be, then I think it's the board's responsibility to meet and make some plans to make that school what it's supposed to be, not just pull out the rugs from the 100 kids that are enrolled in it right now.
Thank you. Jennifer Johnson?
I mean, Katie said it beautifully. That's exactly what it is. We assumed that they would pause the freshman class, wait for the funding, which came in, and then continue to allow. They had said it was possibly because of COVID, the numbers were down, enrollment was down. So we thought, well, I thought, let's reach back out to some of those students. Let's see if we can up the enrollment. I mean, that program is such an innovative program and beneficial to the whole community. I mean, not just to those students. We're literally preparing students to go out into the workforce. And if we want those students to stay in our county and be productive members of society, we need to train them. Not everyone is going to go to college, but everyone can certainly learn a skill and a trade if that's where their heart is and that's where their education is. I think, speaking on the equity piece again, we're allowing students that are first generation college students to attend that one possibly be able to attend because of the financial piece. Like, how wonderful is that these students can now go on to college, you know, and be active members of their community. So I'm confused by it. I certainly think it's a lack of transparency. I believe that there's some personal agendas behind that. I mean, I'm mostly just confused by it. So I don't understand why we wouldn't continue that program. Almost everywhere in the state has that program, and it works well, and it's a benefit to them. So I certainly support it and promote it and hope that the school will continue.
Thank you. Mr. Goodwin?
Yeah, I've thought about this one a lot, and I've asked questions, and like everyone else, I don't get answers that I want. And I too am confused that if it was a financial issue and the finances came through, why didn't it begin? I suspect, and I don't know any of these for facts, that in the military we called it mission creep, that MAST was begun for particular reasons, whether for special needs students that had problems socially in a high school environment, I would be so in favor. They need that smaller setting. If it's just to save people who can afford college for their students, to save them money, I'm not sure I'm so in favor of it. And I have talked with a mom who admitted that to me. But if it would give someone an opportunity they wouldn't normally have, and it's innovative, which I think education is going to have to be in the future, then I'm in favor of it. So you see, because I too don't have the answers that we're all seeking, I have some questions.
Thank you. Lucy Bond.
Yes, I do support MAST. I guess I think of the school board as working with our citizens and with our students. And so with such an outpouring of support for the MAST, it just seems that, you know, we would continue to try to support that school. And because I've done some reading, and it seems to me that we're one of the few counties that do not have an early college. And from what I've gathered, there will be money, there is money out there for a program such as MAST. It is innovative. I think that if there are problems, as I heard Katie say and Jennifer, that our board can work on that and make sure that it is the type of school that it started out to be. So yes, I am supportive of it. I think it's wonderful that it is a school where you can offer academics and you can get a diploma or a trade certification. I think that's great. And it is so connected to our county, and the community college is such a great campus. I think it would be very good to let freshmen come in and let's give this MAST program a chance.
Thank you very much.
One more thing though, I want to say is that to me, it's school choice, and how wonderful that we could, as a public school system, offer a choice to our students. And I think I hear a lot about school choice. So I guess I'm confused as to why we wouldn't try to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. I'm going to ask a diversity question. Currently, there are 633 teachers in the Carteret County Public School System. Of those, 9 identify as Hispanic and 12 identify as Black. What would be your strategy to increase a more racially diverse teaching population in Carteret County? I'm going to start with Jennifer Johnson.
Thank you. I'm actually on a Citizens for Diversity in Education group, and this is literally the subject that we focus on, is how our numbers over the years have decreased, because we've slowly over the years dropped the amount of teachers we've had that are non-white. And so we've been working with some of the local teachers, and we've actually contacted our superintendent to let him know that this is certainly an issue for us, and that how we can increase the hiring of qualified teachers. I know in the past they had done some recruiting that didn't turn out or end up hiring any teachers. And so that needs to be looked at. I also think that, well, I know for a fact that there's some teachers who live in the county, African-American teachers who had tried for years to get a teaching position and just couldn't. And so they moved to a different, they live in Carteret County and they work in a different county because they were able to secure a job there. So that to me is a real concern, because that says these teachers, it's not that they're not qualified, it's just that they're not hired. And so I think that needs to come from the top down, and we really need to look at our hiring process and make sure that we're hiring teachers that represent all of our students, so that they have someone to look up to and they have someone as a role model and to aspire to, and that they represent, you know, what our student body makeup is, because that certainly, those numbers don't say that. And I believe that those aren't all qualified, highly qualified teachers either. Some of those include teaching assistants.
Thank you. Dennis Goodwin.
I too am very concerned about our present numbers. And I was thinking, well, why did I choose the career that I did? And it began in what we called then junior high, which is now middle school. Someone planted the seed, and that seed was nurtured as I grew up. So there was no question what I was going to do. When they said, we think you would be good at this. So we have to start with a career day and we're in education. So our teachers are the best models that we have. And to say, I could see you being a teacher one day. So we have to create opportunity for them to ask questions. We already have ways to provide scholarships for them. But it's not all about money. It's, and though that's an important factor, but it's also about you would be a great teacher, somebody identifying those people of color and saying, we really need you. I hope you'll consider this. And it has to be a continual thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucy Bond.
This is really a very important issue, and it's a little bit distressing to me. I'm also on the same committee with Jennifer, the Citizens for Diversity and Education, which is a working committee of the NAACP. We have, I think, around 6 Black teachers. We have no persons of color as assistant principals or principals, none in our leadership. And this is 2020. And I think that by having such low numbers that creates a problem for people who may want to come here and teach. They might not feel that there's a place for them here. Certainly all of our students, Black and white, Latino, we all need role models that look like us, but we also need role models that look different from us. I do think that by going to historically Black colleges and having maybe retired African-American teachers go and try to, encourage our African-American students to come here and try to give it a chance. I think that would be great. I think that our Black teachers need a mentor group that would help them maybe discuss problems. I think it's an attitude that we need to restructure, that we need to rebuild this idea that, we're all equal, we're all working together to make our community better. So yes, this is something we need to seriously take a look at and try to reform.
Thank you very much. Katie Statler.
This is a tough group to go last with. I do think it's a problem. It's not just a problem in Carteret County. Like they said, this is a problem statewide. Our state, as an entire state, we are 77% white teachers, and that's not what the population is or even close to it. So it starts at the state level and then locally making sure, like they've talked about, that we're following the hiring procedures and ensuring that that's not where anything is getting stuck. Recruiting or attending recruiting events that we can at colleges that have a higher diverse population graduating class might enable us to work towards solving this problem a little bit. And then increasing our student-teacher partnerships with schools that maybe have a more diverse class could hopefully bring opportunities for us to have teachers that want to be here, people of color that want to join this community. When it's not a community that matches your family, it's hard to walk into. So we as a whole community need to create and welcome this diversity into our schools.
Thank you very much. Since we ended with you, Katie, we're going to start with you for the next question. Do you support lobbying county commissioners for an increase in teacher supplements to make us more competitive across the state?
I do. I think we have to be respectful of the tax dollar, and I think we have commissioners that are extremely fiscally responsible and are respectful of our tax money. And I think it is important that we remain that, but we're not going to get the qualified teachers of any caliber, but even the people of color we just talked about, when neighboring counties have stipends that are higher than ours. I have friends that drive across the bridge into other counties, into Onslow, because they get a higher stipend. So if we don't have right here, if we don't have what they're looking for, they can go either direction, one county, and get a higher stipend. So in order for us to be competitive, and just saying we have great schools, that's true, but when you're at the top, there's only one way to go, and we have to stay competitive with these counties that are neighboring us and on the state level.
Thank you. Lucy Bond.
Yes, I definitely believe that I would lobby for a higher supplement for our teachers. As Katie said, we are lower than Onslow and Craven, and there are several coastal counties that we are lower than, and our teachers work very hard. If we want to keep them here, and if we want to draw other highly qualified teachers, white and black, then we need to show them that we care enough about them. I agree that we have to be respectful of the tax money that our citizens are paying for, but I'll tell you, there is nothing more important than our public schools. And we have to help our teaching staff in order to keep our schools good. They have a lot of responsibilities. They care for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Dennis, you're on mute.
I went blank for a second. I too believe that our teacher supplements should at least be competitive. The old adage that you get what you pay for is true in this case. You know, I'd like to see us not just be competitive, but be toward the top of the hill. That we have a wonderful climate. We believe this is a wonderful place to live. We have a wonderful communities. Our nonprofits are second to none. So why wouldn't they want to come here? And so we've just got to do everything we can to attract the best teachers that we can. I'm a fiscal conservative, having said all that. But we get what we pay for. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Jennifer Johnson.
Yes, I also agree that we need to have a competitive teacher supplement to at least match our two counties. I believe it's absolutely a return on our investment. Spending that little bit amount of money more will get us even more qualified teachers to come to this area. We also live in a beautiful beach area that does not have a lot of affordable housing. So we can't expect a highly qualified teacher to move here and then, not make that much money to begin with, because I don't think we pay teachers enough to begin with, and also expect them to, pay $1,500 a month to live in an apartment because that's all they can find these days. So I think we need to be cognizant of that and realize that if we want the best, we need to pay for the best. I mean, there's no way, like Katie said, you can drive over each county line and get a better paying job. And many of those teachers that we spoke to, teachers of color, that's exactly what they did. They crossed that line and were hired immediately and made more money than they would in this county. So if we want to stay competitive and continue to be one of the top schools, then we need to put our money where our mouth is.
Thank you very much. We talked a little bit about safety in our schools. What can we do to increase the safety in our schools and make our students and our staff more safe? I'm going to start with Dennis Goodwin.
Yeah, well, I wish we didn't have to do this, but our school resource officers, we have to keep them funded. We wish we live in a different kind of world than we do, but we have to maintain this. We have to instruct our teachers and staff on what to do if we have a dangerous person that enters the school grounds. We have to instruct our students on what to do, where to go, how to act, the safe places that are in the classroom. Unfortunately, a couple of us grew up with I think we crawl under the desk, but we were worried about a nuclear attack. Thank God we don't have to do that anymore. But it's still an unsafe time, and everybody on the school ground has to know that once they enter, they're safe. And there are ways to do that. We don't want to put 10-foot fences around our schools. We want to create an atmosphere that discourages someone from doing anything on our properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Jennifer Johnson, we'll go to you next.
Yes, I agree that safety is a major concern for our children. When we drop them off every morning, we want to make sure that we pick them up in the afternoon in the same condition that we left them in. I think that instead of just thinking about school shootings or someone entering, we need to also think about basic safety measures like, are our HVACs clean? Are our children breathing clean air? Are we making the necessary repairs on our buildings to ensure that they're safe, such as, you know, White Oak Elementary School that's busting at the seams? There's a lot of safety concerns there that aren't due to a shooter coming in or an intruder. They're just basic issues that aren't taken care of that are putting our children at risk. I believe that we need to make sure that all our, which hopefully when the bond passes, that we can make sure that all our playground areas are all fenced in, that all our walkways are safe, covered, that all our entrances are locked properly. I think in the age of COVID, safety to me also means, do we have the proper PPE for our children, for our teachers? Are we making sure we're keeping them safe that way? Are our buildings being cleaned and sanitized properly? I mean, I think safety is so much more than just our, you know, intruder drills. We need to look at the whole piece and make sure that we're putting money and funding things that are keeping the whole system and all our children and our teachers and staff safe.
Thank you, Jennifer. Katie Statler?
As a mom of a kindergartner that walks through outdoor walkways on her own to get into her classroom, and the other kids have done the same, I have pleaded to the board about school safety for 4 years. And the same thing, comes down to money. And I am all for being fiscally responsible, but it can't be at the expense of our kids' safety. And I unfortunately feel like it has been, and many times Jennifer's right. It doesn't just start with these drills. It starts with just safety, clean air, clean water. We don't know where these kids are coming from, and having the option for them just to have that's the start of safety. I agree, we have to teach our kids to be prepared for these drills, but it's also not their job. They're kids, and they should be able to go to school and not be scared of something happening. And my kids have come home and told me about the drills where their teachers play in the closet with them and they play the silent game. And these teachers are trying so hard to make the best of this situation, but they can't if we don't provide them the resources. And one of those would be a school resource officer in each school. We do not have them in each school because it comes down to, if a school is in city limits, then it's an argument of who should pay for the school resource officer. And I don't think it should be. I think at some point you got to pony up the money for school safety, and it might not happen until something happens and we react to it, which will be very unfortunate. But waiting for school resource officers in each school and funding those is of utmost importance. Replacing windows that need replaced and doors so that people can't come into the school, locking exterior doors, making a way for kids to travel between buildings at schools that are not one building, a safe way for them to travel with and without their teachers, and closing their little walkways that we send them down every day into the open.
Thank you, Katie. Lucy Bond?
Yes, I was a teacher who would take, elementary school children into a closet or a bathroom and make sure that we were safe from an intruder. It's scary. It's scary for the teacher and scary for the students. But I do agree with Jennifer and Katie that, keeping our schools safe is very important in so many ways. Health and safety are intertwined. They go hand in hand. And that's why, to me, a school resource officer is good. But, when you think about student services, having counselors and social workers, when you have psychologists and school nurses, which we do have now for COVID, but we should have them all the time. Because we have students, some of the school shooters have been students themselves, and it's pretty sad to think that, that they slip through. And so I think, in addition to all the things that we said about keeping our schools healthy and safe, that we have to make sure that we have those services at our school so that we are developing the whole child, so that when there are problems, that children have someone that they can go to and speak with. And I'm sure a resource officer could speak with some children, but some children might be very intimidated by that. So I would say, let's make sure that our school services in each and every school are what they need to be.
Thank you, Lucy. What do you feel are the critical state funding needs in our county schools, and how would you address these? We're going